Okay, greetings all. Thanks to topsport.com.au. We're going to do a bit of a Group 1 preview. I've got Mark Rhoden here. We're going to talk about the first Group 1 of the year. It's crept up on us. It's the Winx Stakes, or the old Warwick Stakes. How you going, Mark?
I'm going very well, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. It's a Group 1, nominally, this race, I guess, and has been for a couple of years. But just looking at overall, very much a warm-up race, and everyone targeting bigger things in spring.
Yeah, I mean, Group 1 weight for age races in August are a bit of a myth, in my opinion. But that's the way the Patent Committee want to grade them. That's up to them. It looks to me like a pretty good Group 1 or 2 handicap field with a couple of exceptions, I suppose. But that's kind of where we are in the post-Winx landscape, and with all the 3-year-olds being shipped off to stud as soon as they lose a race or two or hit the age of 4. So this is what we'll have to deal with. It's a pretty good race. I shouldn't talk it down too much, but that's what we're left with.
Now, we're back to Randwick, of course. You, me, and every other punter has been having a great time at Randwick of late. We got any clues on how things are going to look on Saturday?
We've got clues. That's the best we can do these days in Sydney. The big change from this week from last week is going to be the rail position, because we'd had a couple of meetings, one at 9 and one at 11 metres. So out a significant way on both occasions, the last 2 meetings I've had there. The first one of those, the inside was okay. When it got to 11 metres, they were just heading to almost the outside fence, the middle of the track at least. Back to the true, even on the wet track, and a pretty strong westerly wind. There's some precedence there. Doncaster today was a bit of a precedent, and the track was pretty fair that day. I think back in the true, it certainly won't be a disadvantage being on pace or leading. And I hope this isn't the case. It could even be a big rails advantage. That would be probably the worst outcome for anyone betting early.
Yep.
Throw everything into disarray. But I would be looking for a fairish track where most get their chance, hopefully. And as long as it's not too hot a rails bias, I think that's what we'll get. I doubt the rails will be off, because they haven't raced on that ground for months now. It certainly should be okay, at least, just hopefully not too good.
No worries. All right. And just quickly, might just start by having a bit of a chat about the map. Bit of speed in it, do you think?
It'll be okay. Some of the sort of nominal leaders are drawn out wide, like Quackerjack and Dreamforce. They sort of have to come across from their wide gates. So I think it'll be an even pace. It won't be breakneck. Most of them first up, they won't be out to break records. Some of those drawn in, like Conte Petiro and Flit, I think will try and take positions. The Bostonian's drawn 1. He won't be far away at all. The outside of Wolf's the leader, but he's more of a stayer, but he'll probably be in the first half dozen. Then the decisions the jockeys are going to have to make on some of the more fancied runners like Master Wine and Very Elegant, they've drawn sort of middle into wide gates.
Yep. You'd
expect second half of the field for them. And if the track's playing as we expect, 2 or 3 wide, midfield or off with cover should give them their chance. But we'll wait and see on the day for that. But as it stands, I'm assuming that those horses around midfield and settling off the fence will get their chance as well.
Good stuff. All right, we might run through the field and have a bit of a quick chat about them all. Big field. I think we've got 18 runners.
We've lost Funstar's the only one so far, I think.
Yeah, by the looks of it. Yep. All right. So number 1's Dreamforce, which is $7.50 with TopSport at the moment. Yeah,
he's 8-year-old now, Dreamforce. His recent first up form is good. Last spring he won the Tramway first up. Very much a leader's track that day, but he did win by 3 lengths, and he got beaten ahead by Alizé first up in the Apollo last time in what was a pretty ordinary race as it panned out, but he still ran okay. My question mark on him is now that he is 8 years old, and he had 2 sort of softish trials, whereas in his last 2 preps he'd been revved up and actually been winning or finishing very close up in his trials. So I wonder if they're just taking a more conservative approach with him, especially the track is improving this week, but it's still going to be pretty testing. It's very chopped up out there at Randwick. And he is an on-pace runner. I wonder if they've just left something in him there in the tank for later on down the track, whether they want to be busting him up first up on Boston track, I don't know. He's pretty firm in the market, and I've got him a lot longer. I've marked him around $15 at this stage, just because of those little question marks.
No worries. Number 2 is the Bostonian, pretty close to the market, $7.
Yeah, he's a great chance. He hasn't had a trial, but that's not a public trial, but that's the way he does it. Very rarely hasn't trialled at his last 3 preps, in fact, before his first up run, officially anyway. Both his runs in Sydney last prep were fantastic. He won the Canterbury Stakes easily. Admittedly, he wasn't the best part of the track. It was a rails day that day at Randwick, but he beat, I think it was Sabastiano from memory, and did it convincingly, and then ran Dreamforce to a head in the George Ryder. The 2-run prep, they were both fantastic. Either of those performances will win this. And he's handled the wet, excuse me, before in both New Zealand and Queensland. There's no reason to expect that'll hold him up. Barrier 1, as I've said, I think I've got no problem with Barrier 1. Excuse me, just Jay Ford on him. He's not really a Group 1 jockey, you know. He had been riding quite well over the autumn and winter and the provincials, but this is a bit of a step up. So, Nash and Jay McDonald rode him last prep. It's Jay Ford. Not enough to stop me liking him, but that's just a little negative. I would have had him short. I've actually got him $6. I'll probably be saving on him at the very least. I think he's a great chance in the race.
No worries. Number 3's Avilius. Also first up, of course, and out of Barrier 13, $26 at the moment with TopSport.
Yeah, this will just be a tune-up for him. He's getting on now, 7 years old, drawn wide. I assume they just go straight out the back. And at a trip well short of his best, all they'll want is for him to be finishing off, I think, here.
Fair enough. Number 4 in Barrier 4 is Fierce Impact, and $16 at the moment, TopSport.
Yeah, it's a half chance, Fierce Impact. Pretty good fresh, no problem. Soft, I wouldn't think, and okay trials. I mean, he will need to bring his best form, excuse me, at his first up run to win. But if he does, he's right in it. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see him run up place. I've got him around the market price. He's not going to be a bet or anything, but he is one that it wouldn't surprise me at all to see run quite well.
Okay, number 5 is Colding, out in Barrier 18, and $34 in the market at the moment.
Yeah, it's about right. I think hasn't won a race since the Golden Eagle last spring. He was disappointing in the autumn, I think you've got to say. He didn't really come up. He's had really quiet trials and drawn very wide. So I would need to see something from him before considering betting on him again. He might have run his race, Colin.
Number 6, next to him in Barrier 17 is Imaging, $19 with TopSport at the moment.
Yeah, bit unlucky first up. Got a check when it was trying to get into the finish in the missile behind Guado. Was a big improver second up last time under Joe McDonald when we actually backed him in the Ajax back in the autumn. Whether they can go to those heights for Kathy O'Hara from Bad Gate remains to be seen. No, I'd have to let him go around on Saturday.
Number 7's the favourite at this stage, Master of Wine in Barrier 11 into $5.50 with TopSport now.
Yeah, I've got him on top, and I think I'll be backing him unless something untowards happens. I think this is the one horse in the race that we really haven't seen the best of yet. He is a 6-year-old, but he's only lightly raced. Only had the 15 starts, and only about 10 since getting to Australia. So I think, he's actually taken a step forward in each prep he's had in Australia thus far. And if he does that again, and then he's going to be right in races like the Cox Plate, which he is high up in the betting for. Of course, he won't be at his peak on Saturday, but if he's going to be winning a race like the Cox Plate, you would expect him to be able to put in a performance which is going to be good enough to win this. He's had really soft trials. He's a very nice horse. He absolutely walked in a benchmark race first up last time at 1,400, which, he'd shown great form last spring, getting out to 2,000, 2,400, and he was in the market, but I and a lot of people thought 1,400 would be too short for him first up last time, and he won by 3.5 lengths running away. So, and then went on with the job at his next start. So if he's as good a horse as I think he is, I think he'll be right in the finish on Saturday.
No worries. Number 8 in barrier 8 is Nicanova. $20 with TopSport. Opened at 34, so maybe a little bit of money.
Yeah, a bit of a flashing light run in a 1,000-metre race at Doomben when it was fresh last time. Came from last on the turn and almost won, which was pretty spectacular. But this, up to weight for age, he looks a level below these, I think. Yeah, not really interested.
Whereas number 9 is Star of the Seas from barrier 15, $21 with TopSport.
Yeah, good handicapper, good wet tracker, and won first up last time. Just again, the class issue with him and where he ends up from the barrier. Not hopeless on a wet track, but no, I couldn't really entertain him though.
All right, he's number 10, Old Mate Quacker Jack, barrier 14, $41 at the moment.
I have to say no. First up in this class on a wet track, he led in his last trial on the Kenzo the other day, and he dropped pretty severely out post underwriting late, so he doesn't look to be going well enough to win in this class first up.
11 is Brandenburg, barrier 12, $21.
Yeah, nice horse. Placed in the Doncaster as a 3-year-old with no weight, and also won first up last time. Didn't measure up at weight for age, really. I suppose he was okay in the George Ryder, and then fell short in the all-age at his last run before a spell. He's going to have to come back better to win here. I think the price is about right.
No worries. Number 12's Very Elegant. Barrier 10, $7 with TopSport at the moment. And by the sounds of it this week, probably on target for the Cups later in the spring. Yeah,
that's the call for the Cup. It's a good race for her, and that races like that. Last two preps. Wet track's a tick, obviously. Trial okay. He's only had one trial. Isn't going to be ready here, and she really has at her last couple of preps taken racing to peak. She ended up bolting in the Tancred last time, but that was at 2,400 and fourth up. You look at her first up run, she was unplaced behind Alizé and very easy in the market that day at 1,400 here. I would expect her to be finishing off okay, but I couldn't back up.
13's Melody Bell in barrier 6 and $10 with TopSport.
Yeah, if you wanted to be generous, you could say she ran the best closing 200 in the missile first up, but she wasn't really suited the way the track was playing, but she really took no part in the race. I couldn't be backing her here.
No worries. 14 is Conta Petiro in barrier 2 and $10 with TopSport.
Yeah, maps really well. Loves the wet. I wouldn't be taking $10. I've got one of those half chances marked around the $15, $17 range. She was revved right up, given a really solid hit out in her last trial. So I expect her to be pretty forward. Expect her to run a race, but just sort of a second, third tier chance for me.
Whereas 15 is Flit in barrier 5, $13 at the moment.
Yeah, always had a bit of a reputation, a bit of a rap on her, and she was fairly solid in the market first up. She's never really run a rating that would put her anywhere near winning this, to be honest with you. She's 4 now. She won first up last time in the light fingers at big odds, then didn't go on with it really after that for the rest of the prep. And her first up run she'd have to improve lengths off her first up run. That wasn't a really high rating made for age race at all, or setback race at all. I've actually priced her right out. I've got her near 50 to 1. She either has to show something here in the next start or two, or that's it for her, I think.
Cool. 16's Fun Star's been scratched. 17 is Wolf in barrier 9, $101.
No, just not good enough.
And 18 is Zabrowski in barrier 7 at 61 at the moment.
Yeah, now this is an interesting one. If this gets a run, I would not let it go around at 50 or 60 to 1.
Okay.
He won. I think it was a maiden. Yeah, won a maiden first up last time, but he just kept improving last prep. It's the same camp as Master of Wine. They can get him to do that. He's only a 4-year-old too, Zabrowski, and he ended up running second in the Tulloch and then second in the Derby to quick thinking.
Yeah.
Just took a step forward each start. That prep. Yeah. So while obviously 1400 is going to be well short of his best distance, I think he's a horse of some ability. He closed off nicely in his last trial, and I would be having at least something on him at 50 to 1 if he gets a run, just to save the mental anguish if he floats on over. But I think he's a nice horse, Zabrowski, and won't let him go around at those odds.
No worries. All right. So betting wise, I should mention it's Thursday afternoon we're recording, so we're at about 125% at the moment. So the market will come in on Saturday. But what are your thoughts at the moment? Any angles there?
Yeah. At this stage, and always as always, assuming a fair track and nothing untoward happening in the next 48 hours. Master of Wine, I think, is a bet. I think he's could prove himself one of the best horses in the country this spring, and he'll need to show us something on Saturday if that's to be the case. We'd have to save at least on the Bostonian. I think it's really well placed in it, and as I just mentioned, Zabrowski will be having a drink on it too, just at the big odds if it gets a start. So they're the three I'd be considering as betting propositions at this stage.
Good stuff. All right. Well, thanks for that preview. Good run through every runner. And I think, we'll have a look at all the Group 1. So you'll have next week off, but we'll after that, we'll be right into it.
Yep. Looking forward to it. It's the one of the good times of the year to be around Sydney racing. So, yeah, really looking forward to it.
Good stuff. All right. Thanks for that, Mark. And we will chat again soon.
Okay. See ya.